Some people complain that they often have to go to the toilet, but also they are thirsty all the time. In fact, I knew a female friend of mine, and she always had to go to the toilet, and it was really so obvious that everybody realized that. Just having nights out with our friends or hanging out, she couldn't control it. And if we were out in the open and there were no public restrooms, she had to really separate away from the group very often and just seek for a place where nobody can see her. I can imagine that it was embarrassing for her because everybody noticed it. And they just questioned, well, what's wrong with her? Why does she always have to do that? In medical terms, we call this polyuria. That is excessive urination. And there was a reason why she experienced that. Her kidneys were damaged. And kidney damage is often irreversible, and it is important to prevent it. But this was not something she knew at the time. But before we jump to conclusions and we assume that every polyuria is caused by kidney damage, we have to understand how the body loses water. And releasing urine from the body is not the only reason why we feel thirsty, and it's not the only way we lose water. Human body can lose water when producing sweat, and sweat has to cool down the body and control the temperature. So if someone is working out a lot or lives in a warm climate, that may be the explanation why the person experiences thirst more often. But you're not supposed to experience the urge to urinate too often if you're sweating too much. In fact, if you sweat too much, your urine should be more concentrated. So that is one indication that something might be wrong. If you feel thirsty, but you're also urinating a lot, the urine might not be concentrated enough, and that could indicate that there is some organ failure, for example, kidneys, or some other disease, or a failure of other organs. So yes, kidney damage might be one of the explanations for polyuria, but patients with end-stage chronic kidney disease lose their ability to filter urine out of the blood, and therefore we would not expect to see polyuria in such patients. Furthermore, there are other explanations why patients might be experiencing polyuria. There are many people who suffer from polyuria, and to help me reach these people and spread this information, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And when you do that, I hope you're going to do it now, I will explain other causes for polyuria. There is one truly common cause for polyuria and one not so common but very interesting. Completely irrelevant of what is causing this polyuria, it should be diagnosed early on so that we can treat it, but very often also prevent a dangerous or a lethal outcome. This extremely common cause for polyuria is diabetes. In patients with diabetes mellitus type 1 and 2, the pancreas is either not producing enough of insulin into the body, or the body has simply become immune to insulin. Now, what does insulin do? Insulin helps absorb glucose from the bloodstream into the cells of brain, muscles, and other organs. But once that does not happen, the concentration of glucose in the bloodstream spikes. And the kidneys are normally supposed to reabsorb the glucose from the urine back into the bloodstream. So here's the urine, and from the urine back into the bloodstream. That's what kidneys do. But since the concentration of glucose in the bloodstream is already elevated so much, the kidneys are not able to do that anymore. So because the glucose remains in the urine, instead of being reabsorbed into the blood, it actually pulls more water from the bloodstream into the urine. In medicine, we define this as high osmolality urine because the concentration of glucose is elevated. It's really important not to lose the orientation and understanding of what are we actually looking for here. We're trying to figure out what can cause polyuria. And based on this description of urine, we said that urine with high osmolality and a high concentration of glucose can be caused by diabetes mellitus type 1 or 2. That is, however, not always the case, and the concentration of urine can be reduced while the volume is increased. We are talking about low osmolality polyuria. This organ over here is associated with diabetes insipidus. And just like diabetes mellitus, diabetes insipidus can cause polyuria, but this time polyuria with hypoosmolality. This organ over here is the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland produces a hormone called antidiuretic hormone. That is the ADH. Now, a diuretic is a type of medication or a substance that causes increased urination. So this antidiuretic hormone, which is produced in the pituitary gland, does exactly the opposite. The antidiuretic hormone helps absorb the water from the urine back into the bloodstream. You see, kidneys, they don't just release all the stuff out of the human and immediately keep everything that is needed. It's a process. The urine is filtered out of the blood, but then glucose and water are taken back into the bloodstream, and sugar and water that way is preserved. Well, we can get rid of the urine and all the waste, but at the same time preserve things that we actually have to drink and eat. That's pretty smart. This also causes urine to be concentrated to a certain degree. And that is exactly where this ADH hormone comes into play. It helps reabsorb water from the urine back into the bloodstream. So if the cause for polyuria is chronic kidney disease, it can be slowed down. If the cause for polyuria is diabetes mellitus, it cannot be cured, but it can be treated quite successfully. If the cause of polyuria is the lack of ADH hormone, then structural analogs of this hormone can be taken as a replacement. Diagnostics for polyuria should not only consider these three causes. Causes for polyuria are many, and proper and complete diagnostics can be performed only by a skilled professional who's looking for specific additional signs or symptoms. Both of you, doctors and patients, we have something for you. If you're a doctor and you want to make videos like these, then go to anatomsky.com. But if you have more questions about polyuria, then go to symptomsky.com/help/polyuria.